Boundaries. When to say yes, how to say no to take control of your life. By Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. Picture this. Your alarm goes off, but you've been awake for 20 minutes already, staring at the ceiling with a knot in your stomach. You're mentally scrolling through today's impossible to-do list. The work deadline that somehow became your problem. The family drama you can't escape. The friend who always needs just one more favor. You pride yourself on being the helpful one, the reliable one, the nice one. But here's the thing. You're utterly exhausted. There's this nagging feeling that your life is running you, instead of the other way around. Sound a little too familiar? Let me introduce you to Sherry. From the moment her eyes open each morning, she's already drowning. Her mother's loneliness becomes her emergency. Her boss's complete lack of planning becomes her fire to put out. Her friends' never-ending crises become her responsibility to solve. Even her husband's bad moods become her problem to fix. She bends over backwards trying to be everything to everyone. Yet somehow her life feels like it's spiraling completely out of her control. Here's what Sherry didn't know, and maybe you don't either. There's something incredibly powerful called boundaries that could change everything. Today, we're diving into a book that's quietly revolutionized over 2 million lives. It's called Boundaries. When to Say Yes, How to Say No to Take Control of Your Life, written by two brilliant psychologists, Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. These guys aren't just academics sitting in ivory towers. They've spent decades in the trenches, helping real people untangle the messy reality of blurry boundaries. Here's what I promise you. By the time we're done today, you'll finally understand why you feel overwhelmed, resentful, or like everyone's taking advantage of you. Even better, you'll discover the game-changing principles that'll help you reclaim your life. This isn't just about becoming the person who says no more often. It's about building a life that's healthier, more authentic, and actually yours. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's explore the liberating world of boundaries together. So what exactly are boundaries? It sounds kind of clinical, maybe even a bit cold. But the authors paint this beautiful picture. Think of boundaries like the property lines around your yard. Just like a fence marks where your lawn ends and your neighbor's begins, personal boundaries define what is you and what isn't you. Imagine your neighbor never waters his grass, but every time you turn on your sprinklers, half the water ends up on his side. Your lawn turns brown while he's looking out his window thinking, "Hey, my yard looks great." That's exactly what happens when our boundaries get fuzzy. We end up watering everyone else's lawn while our own garden withers. At their heart, boundaries are about ownership and responsibility. They help you figure out what's truly yours. Your feelings, your choices, your time, your energy, your values, your love. Once you know where your property lines are, you're free to tend your own garden. But boundaries aren't just about definition. They're about protection, too. Like a good fence, they keep the valuable stuff in, your energy, your values, your love, and the harmful stuff out. Manipulation, disrespect, abuse, control. Now, here's the crucial part. Healthy boundaries need gates, not walls. Gates. Walls keep everything out, good and bad, leaving you completely isolated. Gates let you choose what comes in and what goes out. You can let in support, love, honest feedback. You can let out vulnerability, mistakes, requests for help. Even God has boundaries, the authors point out. He defines who he is, takes responsibility for his actions, and sets clear limits on what he allows. So what are these property markers in our lives? They include your skin, the most basic physical boundary. Your words, especially that powerful little word no, saying no tells the world you exist separately and you're in control of yourself. It's not about being negative, it's about being honest. Think about it. If you can't say no, your yes doesn't mean much. Truth, living in reality, and being honest about yourself. Consequences, the natural results of actions. Boundaries often mean letting people experience what happens when they make certain choices, instead of constantly rescuing them. Distance. Sometimes you need physical or emotional space. Time. Setting limits on how much time you give. Other people. Leaning on supportive friends to help maintain your limits. Here's a critical distinction. Boundaries help us be responsible to others, not for others. Think of it like carrying luggage. We all have our daily knapsack, our feelings, attitudes, choices, tasks. That's our load to carry. Sometimes people face boulders, crises too heavy to bear alone. Being responsible to others means helping carry those boulders when they genuinely can't manage. But being responsible for others means trying to carry their knapsack every single day, something we were never meant to do. Chaos erupts when we confuse the two. If boundaries are so vital, why do we struggle so much with them? The book identifies several classic patterns. First, there are the compliance, the yes people. Like Sherry, they melt under pressure, usually driven by fear. Fear of hurting feelings, fear of abandonment, fear of anger, fear of looking selfish or uncaring. They can't say no even when something feels completely wrong. Then there are the avoidants, who say no to the good stuff. They can't ask for help, can't recognize their own needs, can't let people in. They've built walls, instead of fences, with gates, keeping out support, along with harm. Some people are tragically both compliant and avoidant, saying yes to bad things and no to good things. This is called having, quote, reversed boundaries, and it's absolutely exhausting. Next come the controllers, who bulldoze right over other people's boundaries. They see someone's no as a challenge to overcome. There are two flavors. Aggressive controllers openly bully and ignore limits, like Sherry's boss Jeff. Manipulative controllers use guilt, tears, or clever persuasion to get their way, like Sherry's mother. Despite seeming powerful, controllers are often deeply lonely, knowing people comply out of fear, not genuine love. Finally, there are the non-responsives who simply don't hear others' legitimate needs. They might be overly critical or just absorbed in their own world, like Mike, who completely dismissed his wife Brenda's vulnerability. Often, controllers and non-responsives end up with compliant avoidance, creating toxic pairings where one person does everything and the other does nothing. Understanding these patterns helps, but here's the deeper question. Where do boundaries come from in the first place? Boundaries aren't inherited. They're built, primarily in childhood, and the absolute foundation is bonding. Before a child can learn to be separate, they must first feel completely secure, loved, and safe. This happens through thousands of interactions, where caregivers consistently meet the infant's needs. Through this, the child develops what psychologists call emotional object constancy, that inner sense that you're loved and secure, even when your parent isn't right there. Without this foundation, you'll always be terrified of setting limits, fearing that any disagreement means abandonment. You simply cannot build healthy boundaries without deep connections to people who love you unconditionally. Once that security exists, the process of separation and individuation begins, learning what is me and what is not me. It unfolds in stages. Hatching 5 to 10 months. Baby starts exploring beyond mom, realizing they're separate. Parents need to encourage this while staying available. Practicing 10 to 18 months. Toddlers walk and talk, feeling omnipotent. I can do anything. They need joyful encouragement and safe limits. Rapprochement 18 to 36 months. Reality hits. I can't do everything. This is the critical boundary building phase. Toddlers get oppositional. They use anger. Learning their experience differs from others. They claim ownership. Mine, learning stewardship. And they discover that magical word, no. Parents have two vital jobs during this phase. First, respect the child's no whenever appropriate, helping them feel safe expressing separateness without losing love. Second, help the child accept no from others through consistent, age-appropriate consequences. By age 3, ideally a child can be attached yet separate, say no without fear, and accept no without falling apart. These skills get refined during adolescence and young adulthood. Of course, things don't always go smoothly. Boundary injuries happen. Withdrawal. Parents emotionally abandon the child when they disagree, teaching that separateness equals losing love. Hostility. Parents react with anger to independence attempts, crushing the child's spirit. Overcontrol. Parents are too protective, preventing natural mistakes in learning. Lack of limits. Indulgent parents fail to provide structure, leading to entitlement. Inconsistent limits. Mixed messages create confusion and anxiety. Trauma. Abuse or severe loss shatters the child's sense of safety and control. The authors strongly recommend professional help for trauma victims. Understanding how boundaries develop is one thing. Actually living with healthy boundaries requires understanding how they work. The book outlines 10 laws of boundaries, like the physics of the relational world. 1. The law of sowing and reaping. Actions have consequences. Boundaries mean letting people experience natural results of their choices rather than constantly bailing them out. Rescuing prevents growth. Consequences motivate change. Think of Bill's parents who kept rescuing him from every problem. He never learned to solve anything himself. 2. The law of responsibility. You're responsible for yourself and to others. We need to love others, help with genuine crises, and set limits on destructive behavior. Boundaries clarify this crucial distinction. 3. The law of power. You can't change other people, period. But you do have power over yourself, your choices, your responses, your limits. Trying to control others makes you powerless. Focusing on yourself empowers you. You influence others by changing your response to them. 4. The law of respect. If you criticize or disrespect others, boundaries, you'll fear having yours disrespected. To have your no respected, you must respect others. No. Freedom begets freedom. Love their right to choose, even when you hate their choice. 5. The law of motivation. Why are you giving or complying? Out of love or fear? False motives. Fear of abandonment, guilt, seeking approval, trying to earn love, prevent healthy boundaries. True giving flows from a free heart, not compulsion. Freedom first, service second. 6. The law of evaluation. Setting boundaries might hurt someone's feelings, but that doesn't mean it harms them. Think of the dentist. Drilling hurts, but prevents greater harm. Sugar feels good, but destroys teeth. You need to evaluate the real impact. Pain from necessary confrontation can lead to growth for both of you. Be compassionate about their hurt, but don't let their reaction dictate your necessary boundary. 7. The law of proactivity. Initial boundary setting might be reactive, angrily pushing back after years of being walked on. That anger is often necessary, but it's just a phase. Mature boundaries are proactive. They flow from knowing who you are and what you value, not just what you're against. Proactive people live their values. They don't just demand rights. 8. The law of envy. Envy focuses on what others have, distracting you from taking responsibility for your own life. It guarantees unhappiness. When envy shows up, see it as a signal. What am I lacking? What action do I need to take in my own life? Focus on your path, not comparisons. 9. The law of activity. Boundaries require initiative. Passivity is the enemy. It lets problems fester. God expects us to be active. Seek, knock, ask. Think of the baby bird that must peck its own way out of the egg to gain strength. You must actively build and maintain boundaries. 10. The law of exposure. Boundaries must be communicated clearly and lived openly in relationships. Secret boundaries. Withdrawing silently, resenting privately, passive aggression, don't work, and destroy intimacy. Honesty brings things into the light, where they can actually be dealt with and healed. Of course, knowing these laws doesn't automatically mean applying them. Many myths hold people back. Boundaries are selfish. Actually, they're about responsible stewardship of the life God gave you. Boundaries mean disobedience. No, fake compliance out of fear is disobedience. God wants love from a free heart. Setting boundaries will make others hurt or abandon me. It might, but that reveals the quality of the relationship. True relationships respect boundaries. You need supportive connections before setting major boundaries. My boundaries will hurt others. Setting limits on adults responsible for themselves may cause discomfort, but not injury. It's a defensive tool, not offensive. Boundaries mean I'm angry. No, anger is often a signal that boundaries were violated. Healthy boundaries actually decrease anger over time. When others set boundaries, it injures me. This often stems from past hurts or expecting others to meet all your needs. Boundaries cause guilt. Guilt often comes from violating internalized unhealthy rules, not God's standards. Boundaries are permanent and burn bridges. No, they can be renegotiated as situations change. Applying these principles looks different depending on the relationship. In families of origin, it might mean establishing financial independence, refusing to get pulled into triangulation talking about someone instead of to them, or learning not to parent your irresponsible parents or siblings. It often involves recognizing old patterns and embracing your spiritual identity in God's family as your primary allegiance. With friends, boundary issues might involve handling disagreements without terror, confronting friends who manipulate, or ensuring the relationship isn't one-sided. True friendships are based on attachment and can withstand honesty. In dating, the authors stress that boundary maturity is crucial because commitment starts low. Dating is a place to practice boundaries learned in safer contexts, not the primary place to heal deep wounds. Honesty and limits prevent misunderstanding. In marriage, becoming one flesh doesn't erase individual boundaries. Spouses remain responsible for their own feelings, choices, and limits. Problems arise when one tries to control the other or blames them for their own reactions. Healthy marriage requires clear communication, saying, "I feel," not "you make me feel." Submission is mutual, chosen, rooted in love and freedom, never demanded or used to justify control. Marriages need both togetherness and healthy separateness. With children, teaching boundaries means teaching responsibility. It involves both positive instruction and negative consequences. discipline, not punishment. Boundaries help children learn self-protection, taking responsibility, developing choice, delaying gratification, and respecting others' limits. Discipline must be age-appropriate and build internal motivation. At work, boundary issues are everywhere. Are you doing someone else's job? Working excessive overtime due to poor planning, struggling with priorities, dealing with difficult coworkers, having authority conflicts perhaps based on past relationships, expecting work to meet needs only family or God can meet, taking work stress home, stuck in a job you hate because you haven't defined your own path. In all these, the principles apply. Take responsibility for what's yours, set clear limits, communicate truthfully, and don't rescue others from their responsibilities. Perhaps the toughest boundary work is with ourselves. We struggle with internal boundaries around eating, money, time management, finishing tasks, controlling our tongue, sexuality, or substance use. Why is saying no to ourselves so hard? Because we're our own worst enemy, we tend to isolate when we struggle, and we mistakenly rely on sheer willpower, which often fails. The path to self-control involves identifying root causes, often unmet needs or past hurts, taking ownership, finding supportive relationships. This is non-negotiable. Addressing the real underlying needs, allowing yourself to fail and learn, accepting feedback, welcoming consequences as teachers, and surrounding yourself with people who offer support without rescuing. Finally, our relationship with God involves boundaries too. He respects ours. He doesn't force himself on us. He honors our no, even when it grieves him. We must respect his boundaries, his freedom, his sovereignty, his no to our prayers sometimes. Yet it's a real relationship. He invites honesty, even our anger, and sometimes he even changes his mind in response to persistent prayer and reasoning. God models healthy boundaries by taking responsibility for his actions and setting limits on evil. Developing boundaries isn't easy. You'll face resistance, both external, people getting angry, using guilt trips, imposing consequences, blaming you, and internal, your own unmet needs, unresolved grief, fear of anger, fear of the unknown, unforgiveness, false guilt, and fear of abandonment. This is why support is crucial. You can't do it alone. But how do you know you're making progress? Success isn't just about saying no more. It's a journey marked by internal shifts. Feeling resentment when violated your warning system is working. Becoming attracted to people who respect boundaries. Actively joining supportive groups or deepening healthy connections. Starting to value and treasure your own life and responsibilities. Practicing small no's in safe environments. Feeling guilty initially, assign your challenging old rules. Then practicing bigger, more significant no's. Eventually rejoicing when guilt feelings don't appear after setting a limit. Learning to genuinely love and respect others, boundaries. Reaching a place where your no is as free and unconflicted as your yes. Ultimately, living a mature, value-driven life, proactively managing rather than just reacting. Remember Sherry? Imagine her life after embracing boundaries. She sleeps better because she sets limits. Even with her mother, she takes care of herself without guilt. Her children are learning responsibility because she allows consequences. She arrives at work on time, manages difficult colleagues effectively, and even gets promoted. Her relationship with her once draining friend Lois finds its proper, healthier level. Her marriage transforms as she stops enabling her husband Walt's controlling behavior. He misses her, starts taking responsibility, and they find real intimacy. Her life isn't perfect, but it's characterized by freedom, choice, responsibility, and deepening love. That transformation is possible. It requires courage, honesty, support, and willingness to face resistance. But the destination, a life lived with integrity, purpose, and genuine connection, is absolutely worth the journey. What strikes me most about boundaries is its simple yet revolutionary premise. Taking ownership of your life isn't selfish, it's profoundly responsible and loving. For so long, many of us, especially those raised with strong values of kindness and service, have felt that saying no or acknowledging our own needs was somehow wrong. This book brilliantly dismantles that myth, showing through psychology, scripture, and compelling stories that healthy boundaries are actually the foundation upon which true love, respect, and freedom are built. Think about it. How can you truly give a wholehearted yes if you don't feel free to say no? How can you genuinely love others if you're constantly depleted, resentful, or feeling controlled? Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about creating the necessary space so healthy connection can actually happen. They allow you to define who you are, protect what God has entrusted to you, and engage with the world from a place of strength and integrity rather than fear or obligation. For someone your age, navigating friendships, family expectations, school pressures, and maybe even early romantic relationships, understanding these principles now is like getting a map before venturing into challenging territory. Learning to identify your own feelings, communicate honestly even when it's difficult, respect others, limits while upholding your own, and take responsibility for your choices. These aren't just skills for getting along. They're the building blocks of character. They'll shape your college experience, your career, your future marriage, and how you parent someday. Building these internal structures now prevents so much heartache later. So how can you start putting this into practice today? It doesn't have to be dramatic. 1. Start small this week. Find one low-stakes situation where you can practice saying no respectfully but firmly. Maybe it's declining an extra task you don't have time for, or honestly stating your preference about something small. Notice how it feels, both the potential discomfort and the potential freedom. 2. Listen to resentment. Pay attention to moments when you feel frustrated, irritated, or taken advantage of. Ask yourself, what boundary might be needed here? What am I responsible for? And what belongs to the other person? Resentment is often a signal that a boundary has been crossed. 3. Check your responsibility. Pick one important relationship. Are you taking responsibility for yourself, your feelings, choices, needs, while being responsible to the other person, loving, respecting their boundaries, helping appropriately, or are the lines blurred? Embracing boundaries is a journey, not a destination. It involves learning, practicing, failing, trying again, always, ideally, within a community of supportive people offering both grace and truth. It's about learning to live as God designed, distinct individuals, deeply connected in love, free to choose, responsible for the precious lives He's given us. It's the path to becoming who you were truly meant to be. That's a glimpse into the powerful ideas within boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. We've explored the core concepts today: the definition, the problems, the development, the laws, and the path to success. But honestly, hearing about it just scratches the surface. Real transformation happens when you immerse yourself in the stories, detailed explanations, and practical wisdom woven throughout the book. This summary is like looking at a map. Reading the book is like taking the journey. If any of the struggles or solutions we discussed struck a chord, if you felt recognition or hope, I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. It's more than reading. It's an investment in building a stronger, freer, more fulfilling life. You can find a link in the description below. And if this exploration has been helpful, please hit that like button. It tells us we're on the right track. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next deep dive into another essential book. Let's continue this journey of learning and growing together.